All right, welcome back. Back with a quick little review here, this time for the upper division in China. This is the first time I'm going to be reviewing China's upper division. Of course, it started when the brand new year started, pretty much. This is going to be covering roughly the first week and a half, in fact, because they did start earlier than the other regions. Apologies that this is a little bit later than it definitely should have been, but I just thought with all the drama going on and stuff like that, I thought that should be the forefront. And there aren't any matches in China anyways until Friday, so no real harm in waiting until this is out of the way. So anyways, again, this is just going to be the upper division. All the stats and stuff from the lower division are still on the board here. If you're at all curious about anything like that, I won't be addressing it, but it's all here. And as for the matches, we have a lot. Again, it's been a week and a half, and China's also playing at twice the pace as every other division. So I'm going to be trying to breeze through these matches as well. So apologies if this video is a little bit shorter than usual, but again, there's just a lot to unpack in not a whole lot of time. Starting off on January 3rd when our season started, we had eHome taking down Phoenix 2-0. Of course, eHome's new roster is the previous Phoenix roster that got themselves into the upper division in the first place, and they look good. eHome got off to a notably good start. You know, Phoenix not expected to do super well this season, especially with the changes that were made to their roster. They weren't exactly very impressive changes at that, and it's definitely starting to reflect in their gameplay. Later that day, we had actually a very, very intense series of PSG.LGD versus Aster, who, after this past week and a half, have looked like the two strongest teams in the region to this point, which is not exactly what I was expecting, specifically for Aster. I think PSG.LGD was expected to be the #1 team in the region. But yeah, this was a fantastic series. It was close. Aster took a game off of PSG.LGD, and to that point, or to this point, PSG.LGD has only lost that one game. And PSG walks away with the series, but it was a close, hard-fought match. Definitely really fun. Next up on January 4th, we had Vici Gaming taking down LBZS. Again, same thing, both of these teams going through drastic changes to the rosters. However, Vici Gaming holding on to Payoyo and bringing in some new players that are a little bit more familiar than LBZS. PSG.LGD taking down Phoenix. Not even going to get into that one. And then RNG taking a 2-1 win over Invictus, which I knew RNG was probably going to be a lot stronger this season than they were in the last one. The only real weak point I think we've seen from RNG so far this season has been their carry, God King, who can be very hot or cold, but is usually quite cold. But when he is on, he's looking like pretty good. But they take this series over Invictus Gaming, which came down to the wire. If you haven't already seen it, check out Game 3 of this series. It was fantastic. It was literally just like one super clutch late game play that just ultimately won RNG the series when Invictus Gaming likely would have taken it away. So I'd highly recommend checking that out. So they get the 2-1 win there. Then on January 7th, Invictus takes another loss in another 3 games, this time to eHome. And again, to this point, eHome looking quite strong, taking down Invictus, who was projected to be one of the best in the region because although they did lose Kaka, they held on to the rest of the roster. They did very, very well in the last season. Even at TI, they did pretty well for themselves. I believe they finished 4th place. So, Invictus getting off to a slow start, and eHome looking quite impressive. Again, this is the stack that was previously on Phoenix that came into the lower division, and they're really, really making their mark here. Following that, we had Aster taking down Vici. Again, Aster staying very consistent. They lose their first series to PSG.LGD, but ever since then, it's been pretty dominant play from them. Ori has looked fantastic in the mid lane for them. I'm, of course, a little upset that, you know, White Album didn't stay on the team. I kind of liked watching White Album play, but Ori is Ori, and he's doing Ori things right now, and that is why Aster is looking so damn good. Following that, on January 9th, we have Invictus taking down Phoenix. They get their first win. Again, Phoenix just having a pretty rough season to this point, but Invictus gets that much needed win to start getting that momentum. There is still a chance for them to make the major. It's still early on in the season, despite the fact that they're playing at an accelerated rate. Invictus still has the opportunity. There are 4 slots available, and getting this win is a good start for them. Following that, LBZS taking down RNG. So again, I talked about RNG and their mainly their carry player being their very hot and cold sort of player, sort of the one that dictates whether the team is going to do well or not, is whether or not they're going to be able to carry him when he's doing poorly, or if he'll be able to play well enough to actually win the game. And against LBZS, they upset RNG in the series. They do take it in 3 games, so RNG had their moments. But RNG, this is notably a series that they should have likely won. And if they had, they would have been tied for first place with PSG.LGD so far. Later that day, speaking of which, we have PSG.LGD taking down VG Gaming. Again, VG not as strong this season. I think even if they were, PSG.LGD is PSG.LGD, and they're doing PSG.LGD things. Not really much else I can say about that. They look fantastic. They look just as good as they were last year, if not better. Obviously, we haven't seen them at a LAN yet this year, so we'll have to see how that goes. But given that it's the same stack that they had last year, that as the year went on, they got better and better, this is looking like a scary-ass team if they are still going to be getting better from this point. They are playing very, very well. Following that, January 10th, we had Aster taking down LBZS. Again, Aster playing quite well. RNG taking down eHome. So they come back after that loss, and then they beat eHome, who to this point was also having a pretty good season so far. So RNG, again, kind of unpredictable to this point. They're winning series that they're not exactly expected to win, like the one against IG earlier on, but then they're losing ones like to LBZS. So I'm a little bit worried because right now it's looking like RNG is going to be making it to the major if they keep up with this pace. I'm a little bit worried, however, that their flaws and their cracks in the foundation of the roster are going to start showing a little bit once they play against the other best teams in the world from other regions. Of course, since there is no major this year, which if you haven't heard, I have a video on my channel where you can figure out what the hell's going on there. Maybe RNG will have a little bit more time to get their shit together. Specifically, again, their carry player, who seems to be the hot and cold one of the team. But yeah, we'll have to see how RNG does with the rest of the year. And finally, January 11th, just yesterday, we had RNG taking down Phoenix 2-0. We have Aster taking down eHome 2-0. So again, Aster just continuing to just chug along, being one of the most dominant teams in this region. Again, their only loss to this point has been to PSG.LGD, and even in that series, they take the game off of them. And then finally, PSG.LGD ends off China's first week and a half roughly with a 2-0 win over LBZS. So taking a look at the standings now, again, PSG.LGD leading the way 4-0. Following that in second place, we have RNG and Aster, who are 3-1 so far. And again, RNG, if they hadn't lost that series to LBZS, who is definitely not one of the stronger teams in this region, definitely shouldn't be underrated or underestimated, I should say, but still not one of the stronger teams in the region. I think that's fair to say. And they would be 4-0 as well, but right now they sit 3-1. We have eHome, who is 2-2 so far. They've had a pretty good season so far, but they do still have a chance to make it to the major. Again, I've been very impressed with them, considering they came in through the lower division last season, and they went through minor roster changes to that initial Phoenix roster, but they look pretty solid. Invictus Gaming is 1-2 to this point, which I was not expecting. Again, I thought they were going to be one of the better teams in this region, but it seems that losing Kaka has been a lot more of a loss than maybe we were expecting. And then Vici Gaming tied with them 1-2 as well. LBCS 1-3, and Phoenix 0-4 to this point. Again, things have just been going quite poorly for Phoenix, which was a little bit expected when the season started. Again, the roster changes that they made were not all that convincing whatsoever, and it's starting to show. For Sats now, as we move along, there have been 36 matches played already in China's upper division, despite the fact we've only had a week and a half of games. 17 of those being Radiant wins, Dire wins 19. And for first and last pick, a huge difference here. 13 wins on first pick, 23 wins for last pick, which we knew that last pick was a lot better in this current meta in the way that the current captain's mode drafting functions. But this is one of the bigger separations in all of the DPC currently. For top heroes, we have Kunkka, who is 9-0. This hero is present in 25% of the matches so far and is undefeated. Has looked amazing, really. Again, this is a hero that's been popularized in a bunch of different regions so far, this DPC, but given that China's starting late, they're kind of picking up where some regions left off, while also bringing in their own flair, notably like the Nyx Assassin and the Death Prophet offlane. They're still picking that and making it look quite good, and now that is starting to influence other regions in itself. We have Beastmaster, who's 3-0, and Tinker, 3-0. Which I'm sure is infuriating to a bunch of people who have been complaining about the hero on Reddit for like the past 4 months to this point. Nothing to say is a big part of why the hero has such a high win rate so far. For worst heroes, we have Ogre Magi, who is 0-5, Mars, who is 3-11, having a terrible time as Mars, and Dark Willow, 2-6. Again, those two heroes getting picked in tandem quite often, as they do have a nice ultimate combo. However, with the current speed at which core players are building BKB at this point, that combo kind of gets rendered useless, and thus both heroes get rendered kind of useless by around the 20-minute mark in most games. For most banned, we have Io with 28, which is astounding considering it's been banned 28 times out of 36. Very high. OD making his first appearance on most banned in pretty much every single region. We've seen the hero get popularized a little bit more and more as time goes on, but China immediately prioritizes the hero. 27 bans for him. And for Queen of Pain, 21. For the most GPM teams, or this time going over stats for the top teams. For top GPM, we have PSG.LGD with 2481, very impressive. Aster with 2408, and then Vici with 2176, which is a little surprising because, again, Vici not exactly high up on the standings, but they've got some pretty good stats to back up their record so far. Then for top XPM, it's the same three culprits. PSG.LGD with 2964, Aster with 2907, and Vici with 2625. So they are showing up third on the list. It is pretty far behind PSG.LGD and Aster, but they're showing up on the list. They've actually put up some pretty good stats. Poyoyo is playing very, very well for them, notably, which we'll end up getting into. And then finally, top KDA, Aster with 5.27, PSG.LGD with 4.3, and Invictus Gaming with 3.57. Now looking at top players, top GPM, Ame leads the way with 701. But next we have Monet with 681 and Ori showing up with 611. Again, Ori's been having himself a fantastic season. He fits right in with Team Aster. And again, these guys are looking like one of the best teams in the region. Notably, Aster in the last season, if you recall, before the Animajor, they finished top seed in their region and then proceeded to then falter on the main stage. They kind of had that same thing going on at TI as well, where they lost very early on the main stage. Now, they did get COVID while they were there, which definitely hindered their play and was very unfortunate. But if we do end up having a major and do end up having this roster attending it, this would obviously be the second major, or whether or not the community is able to throw together their own major. It would be really interesting to see if Aster's able to overcome it, if having Ori on the team is really all it took to get them over to the next step. Following that, for top XPM, we have Ame with 799, we have Monet with 741, and Nothing to Say with 706. And for top KDA, we have Ori with 9.89, we have Nothing to Say with 8.68, and XXS, aka Bulbica from Aster, with 8.14. So yeah, again, a lot of movement for China's division so far. I'm again very surprised to see Invictus so low on the board, but for overall we have a lot of the teams that we'd expect near the top. PSG.LGD, Aster, I think we had high expectations for in the season, and for teams like LBZS and Phoenix finding themselves at the bottom, I think that was also expected. Again, that win that LBZS pulled over RNG was definitely one that caught me off guard, and maybe a team that got underestimated a little bit too hard in that series. So yeah, let me know what you guys think about this in the comments down below. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. Again, if you want to join the Discord server, it's in the description. If you haven't seen my video from earlier today, feel free to check that out on my channel. Subscribe, like, all that fun stuff, and I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.